Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Best Damn Pod in the Land. I am your host and sports director, Brian Nelson, and with me I have...
Your one and only, growing out a quarantine beard, assistant sports editor, sorry, Khalid. Assistant sports editor, Andy Anders. Okay. Stumbled all over that, didn't I? That was bad.
Director Khalid Hashi.
And I'm your sports editor, Griffin and we've got an action-packed show for you today.
We do indeed. Despite no sports really happening, there's still plenty of football and basketball news going around. I think first we're going to start with the recent NCAA rulings about eligibility. I don't know who wants to start talking about that one.
I can jump into it.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the biggest questions, with the fallout of all the cancellations and suspensions of all the sports and whatnot was, is there going to be this eligibility relief for the student athletes, because some sports barely got started before their entire season got canceled. Some sports didn't even start at all, like rowing, for example. And for those seniors, it's like, damn, like they didn't even get a senior season at all. So I think a lot of people thought that those spring sport athletes were going to have the option to probably come back. And that was the NCAA vote on Monday. They gave schools the option to extend the same scholarships that they gave their seniors last year, next year again if they came back. Winter sports though was less likely to happen, and it didn't happen for them. They did not get any extra eligibility. So you're not going to see, a fifth season from Kaleb Wesson or anything like that. You're not going to see a fifth season from old Danny Hummer.
No, Danny Hummer is riding off into the sunset now.
Yeah. And I just thought there was a lot of kind of interesting things that we learned from that conference call with some of the spring sport coaches the other day that I didn't necessarily know. I don't know all the ins and outs of like scholarship stuff and eligibility and stuff like that. So I thought a lot of that stuff was revealing, like for scholarships on like the baseball team, for example, they have 11.7 full scholarships worth of scholarship money, but none of the players individually have a full scholarship. So it gets like spread out across the roster with the scholarship money that they have. And I didn't know stuff like that. So for a lot of the players, they have to come back and they still have to take classes, whether it be like a graduate program or something else. So they still have to like be enrolled in classes. And for some of those guys that don't get a full scholarship, like you are having to pay more money to come back for the fifth year, So it's not necessarily an automatic decision. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm getting another year, of course I'm going to come back. For a lot of them, like they might not be stars on the team or whatever. It's actually a hard decision. So it's interesting to see in the last couple of days, people having to make that decision and what they're kind of weighing, what the factors are.
And with those kind of scholarship issues, I'm pretty sure like some teams can find ways to get them academic scholarships, like scholarships and things like that to make it a full scholarship. So I don't know about like if all those guys will have to like pay out of their own pocket and whatnot, but for sports like basketball, it makes a lot of sense. Even though it sucks that a lot of these seniors didn't get to go have their March Madness or Big Ten tournament, whatever, it makes sense. You played basically your entire regular season, and it just wouldn't be fair to have those guys eligible for another year of a senior season while there's schools like Kentucky or Duke, whatever, who has a lot of one and done guys who that doesn't really affect as much. So you're giving an advantage to some teams and not others. So I agree with the winter sports not getting an extra year of eligibility.
Yeah, but not even necessarily just with men's basketball. You have to look at some of the other winter sports for Ohio State that got affected. Wrestling comes to mind. They were having a really good year and had a chance to.
Women's
hockey, they won their conference for the first time. We've mentioned that before. Even men's hockey was having a really good season. So like even women's basketball was doing pretty well. They were making some waves in their Big Ten tournaments. So there's a lot of seasons that
Yeah, it's unfortunate, really.
that ended on an unfortunate note. So, you wonder what could have been, and now with a lot of the seniors leaving, you're not really going to find out. But, I mean, they played the entire regular season, so I don't think you could really justify giving them another full year, another 5th year. I think that would be a little too outlandish. So, I think Andy is frozen, but we will continue on. So, yeah. It does bring up it. Go ahead, Griffin.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to continue and say, for spring sports, though, just outside of scholarships and everything, it does bring some really interesting implications for what's going to happen for those teams for next year. Like how is it going to benefit certain teams, and how is it going to harm certain teams?
Certain teams, they're going to benefit a lot with having. Yeah. It's going to be like a loaded team, pretty much, where you have your freshman recruiting class coming in, and you have pretty much 2 senior classes that are still be playing. So it's going to be a lot of competition, I would say, for the spring sports out there. But we'll see how it works out.
One team that comes to mind for a team that's really going to benefit is like the men's tennis team. They're one of the top ranked in the country, and their senior class had a lot of. They only had a couple like high class senior people, but the people that were on that team were contributing regularly. So I think that's going to bolster the team too. So
yeah, and one of the stipulations about the NCAA vote was that the scholarships that the school will be able to offer the returning seniors do not count against their total scholarships. So it's not like it's taking scholarship money away from incoming players and stuff like that. So that's very beneficial for the schools as well, and interesting to note.
Yeah.
But did you guys realize for some reason, I know Andy probably did because of his comment. I know Andy probably did, but I didn't fully realize that when you are a graduate, if you have an extra year of eligibility or something, that you I guess I never really thought about it. But obviously it makes sense if you're a graduate and you're still playing for the school, you have to be taking some classes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just never thought about it before.
You thought
redshirt seniors in football still are taking classes even though they graduated. Burrow graduated after 3 years.
Yeah, Burrow had to take classes.
A lot of them, either if you graduate within 3 years or whatever, you start taking your master courses.
Right.
Might as well you're not doing anything else.
Yeah.
Right. But I was researching that when we were writing these stories from that conference call, and I the NCAA website had a breakdown of what different athletes typically do for those that last year or whatever, and it was saying that a lot of them just start one of these 2-year graduate programs, and then they just never complete it because they only are really taking the class.
What did you think they did? They just kind of played sports and were at school?
Just chilled, yeah. Got free room and board. Man, that would be the life.
Oh, athlete over here in college.
Yeah.
Wake up and grind.
That's fine.
But speaking, I don't know if we want to segue out of this, but we just referred to how Andre Wesson will not be coming back for another season. And the other Wesson will also presumably not be coming back, or he at least declared for the NBA draft for the 2nd straight year.
He hired an agent, so he officially can't come back.
No.
In NBA, they can. They allow you the window to kind of go test out.
Well, yeah, they allow you the testing period. I didn't think you were allowed to get an agent, though.
No, that's a recent change in the last few years.
Yeah, you're allowed to get an agent.
Not like football. Once you get an agent, you're out.
Yeah. You guys have any thoughts on that, though?
I think it's a good decision, honestly. I feel like Andre were able to come back for an extra year that maybe could have changed Kaleb's decision.
Yeah.
But honestly, once that wasn't happening, and the way that this team is looking for next year, because next year they're going to be a pretty young team, besides Seth Towns, really. I think that Kaleb has his best shot at going to the NBA, and a big reason for that is last year when he went to go test out the NBA, and they told him, hey, you need to work on your perimeter shooting, you need to slim down, you need to do this and that. And he came back and pretty much did exactly that. I think he was like, I have nothing else to prove in the college level. Let me go pretty much set my family up for the future. And I think it'll work out for him. I don't know exactly where he'll get drafted. I think right now he's sitting in the second round. But
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
if he kills it in the scouting combine and the 5-on-5s and things like that, he could work his way into the late first round.
Yeah, I think he's projected to be like a later second round pick though. So I think you'd have to do a lot.
I don't see first round for him.
To make it a first round. I could see him like moving up in the second round to be like an early second round pick because he has improved a lot compared like this year on some of the skills that were his weakness. I mean, one of the most underrated aspects of Kaleb Wesson's play this year was his perimeter shooting. I thought personally, you know, I think there was a lot more I thought he could have done down at the post, but he could sink threes just as well as other
One
people
thing that
on
I
the
would
team.
say though is the reason why I feel like he can move into the late first round is because if we look at this draft class, there's not a lot of guys who've had a lot more production at at the big position than Kaleb Wesson. It's very top heavy, obviously, like with Vernon Carey from Duke and things like that. So late first round is not like asking for a lot because this isn't one of those like stupid deep classes.
Yeah,
with all these type of players. So Kaleb can move up because he has production.
I guess it really
As
just
far as
depends.
him,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, as far as this being the right decision, him making it in the NBA, though, I don't know. I just his type as a player just doesn't really work well in the NBA in
It
recent
may
years.
not be NBA though for him though. Like even if it doesn't work out in the NBA, he can still.
Oh yeah, if he goes international, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope for the best for Kaleb. Obviously, I personally think that if you can't make the NBA, you should stay in college as long as possible.
I agree,
That's
but
just personal opinion. I don't think going overseas is worth it.
I mean, going off of that though, with Andre not coming back and players like Harden and Gaffney officially leaving the program, I don't know if staying for another year is really going to benefit Kaleb. I'm not sure if the team that was going to be around him was going to benefit him any more than they did this
you
year.
get another year with a coach you're comfortable with to develop your game. I mean, look how far he came this year. He could grow.
Yeah.
He's got room to grow.
But on top of that, can we all agree that like the longer you stay in college basketball, the less valuable you become to professional teams?
No, I wouldn't agree with that.
You don't think that?
You've already been in for several years. Like, I mean, the guys that are coming out after a year are like the best guys, you know, for the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel like
once you've already been out for 3
Okay,
years,
I don't think you become less valuable because you've been in college longer. I think guys who can't be
when it comes to the draft, I feel like the draft, NFL and NBA are two completely different, right? I feel like when it comes to the NBA, they care more about age, youthfulness, and how they can develop you. They care
I
about.
don't think they care about youth.
They want yes, they do.
They care about your talent.
Look at the NBA. You have guys that are 18, 19 years old.
Right, because those are the best players. The thing about basketball talent is when you can leave early, you do, right? Guys that can't leave early are the ones who stay, and that's why they get drafted lower because they weren't as talented in the first place. I don't think it's because they stayed longer. The NBA
in the later rounds of the NBA draft, they don't care about how productive you are. They want to see, all right, this guy has this tool we think we can work with and bring the best out of him in this specific area. They don't care about a finished project who's 22, 23 years old. They can find that in the international league. That's not different.
I don't know. I think as a role player, it helps when you can refine your skills and get better at any stage. I think people are looking for refined, proven products that they know are going to be good. And if you're drafting someone to be a role player in the late first or second round, it's better that they have multiple years of experience than someone who is stupid and left too early.
And that's why I feel like just NBA draft picks in general are not valuable. Like when we're looking at trades and stuff like that, like not like the NFL where a 4th round draft pick, where a 5th round draft pick you can get DeAndre Hopkins or whatever, you know, like in
6th round draft pick to get Tom Brady.
NBA, if it ain't a lottery pick, ain't no team care about that draft pick because chances are they're not going to get the kind of player that they want.
That's true.
Specifically for like
you look at Jared Zollinger or a case like that of somebody who just totally flopped in the NBA once he left, and he could have stayed more at Ohio State and done more, and contributed to some winning teams. And and that's who Kaleb Wesson reminds me of too. Is like Jared Zollinger.
I agree. Ohio State players, a lot of them in general. If you're not a dog in your freshman year, like D'Angelo Russell, I don't see the point of you leaving early. You might as well stay until your senior year and just build up that dynasty team that can make a deep run into the March Madness. But Who knows?
Right, that's how I think of Kaleb right now.
Yeah, maybe
Mike,
he heard something
Why
different.
leave?
yeah. Mike Connolly's had a pretty
overseas.
successful career though.
Who?
Mike Connolly's had a pretty successful career though in the
Yeah.
NBA.
Well, yeah, but he was another ridiculous. He was a lottery pick.
Mhm.
I just
But
think
I don't know. We don't know what
You're a
Caleb
lottery pick.
has
Leave.
heard from last year's thing, or maybe even this year from speaking with NBA scouts. Who knows? Maybe he's heard that right now he's a late second round pick and could jump into the first round. And if I heard that as in Kaleb Wesson's position, I'm leaving. I'm gonna take the chance because if you come back and you get hurt, now you're not even a draft pick. Or if you come back and your production drops because he had a pretty good season numbers wise, then you're not even in the same position. So who knows? We don't know what he's heard, but you can't blame the guy for wanting to leave because I think right now, like if he was gonna leave, now is his best chance.
Yeah.
I don't
I
blame
also
him.
go ahead, Griff.
I don't blame him at all for wanting to leave. I just think like another year, like because a lot of the best players in the Big Ten, like Cash, Winston, not Cassius Stanley from Michigan State.
Hold on.
Guard,
You cut out, Griffin. I did not hear that.
Yeah, say it again.
Say that again.
Or Cassius? Is it Cassius Winston? Is the Michigan
Yes,
State
that's
guard.
the guard for Michigan State.
Michigan State guard.
Winston, Jalen Smith,
Maryland.
Oturu. All those guys are going to be gone next year, and it's like I just feel like Kaleb Wesson.
Bully Jalen Smith from Maryland.
Yeah, but all those dudes are going to be gone like too. So I feel like next year he would have had definitely like a first team all Big Ten season, and I just feel like I don't know. I feel like there is a lot of value in being like like a lifetime Ohio State like legend in the community,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like he could definitely have been more of that if he would stay one more year. But no, I definitely don't fault him for trying to. I just don't think his stock is gonna fall if he did stay, barring injury. I don't think.
At the same time, though, with Kaleb, though, I feel like he's had enough reps. I'm kind of in the same vein as Khalid, where Caleb's still been at the program for a long enough time where I think he's proven himself to the NBA scouts, especially this year, where I don't think his staying another year is going to increase his draft stock necessarily. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and the reason
Okay, I see that point. I don't blame him for leaving. I'm saying his draft stock is never going to be high, and he's never going to be a for-sure shoe-in to have success at the NBA level.
But you have to think of it. What if he gets hurt next year in his draft? But what if he gets hurt next year and his draft stock plummets?
That's
true.
All I'm saying is I feel like with Kaleb deciding to leave, he's heard out like scouts or whatever or people telling him that it's a smart decision to move now. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like for him, he made the best decision. For us as like viewers and spectators and for the fans, we may not agree. We may think, oh, you could benefit from one more year, but who knows? Because scouts, obviously, their voice is heard way more than ours.
Yeah. And Kaleb leaving does really impact how the Ohio State basketball team is going to look next year.
I was just about to say, so now we're looking at who's going to replace Kaleb at that big position.
Yeah, I mean –
Ibrahima
Diallo.
I mean, even with Andre leaving, you're losing two of your starting forwards. So the only returning forward you have is Kyle Young.
And you're losing big time spacing because
you have some small forwards still on the team that are returning.
Yeah, I mean EJ Liddell is going to be a starter next year, so that'll help fill a hole. But
they're going to have tons of forwards. Just not going to have.
I'll say you have Kyle Young.
You're not going to have any centers.
That's what I'm saying. Who's going to be that five?
I mean Diallo is the only one really who could fit in to replace Caleb's spot as the big man.
You might just have to play 2 4s and put. I guess Kyle Young would be the 5 as opposed to Liddell if you were setting a lineup, but
that's a problem in itself because it was like last year they were already the smaller team in the majority of games, and now without Kaleb Wesson, you're asking another 4 to play the 5 position, and it's like they just get even smaller, and they're gonna have no rebounding. You can't
unless Diallo blossoms.
Diallo's
a big man.
Offensive rebounding and hustle to get you those rebounds.
I'm telling you what, Diallo, if they are able to refine him, he's got all the physical tools there.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so raw as a prospect.
It's going to take more than, I don't think it's going to be next year that he's –
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Diallo is a project. He's when he's like a junior, maybe then we'll see the production. But
They should have redshirted that man.
They should have actually.
Did it?
they should have. I mean, with
And
how
we
much he played, you certainly would have thought so.
I didn't even think he played that
Played
much.
like 2 games.
Another forward that Ohio State also has to use, though, is Justin Ahrens, so he'll still be there. They can plug him in to kind of like replace like.
I think right now
shooting.
there's I would say 3 spots that are locked in. You have C.J. Walker, Luther Muhammad, and Seth Towns at the 1, 2, and 3 spots. The 4, I'm not locking it in because E.J. Liddell is coming for Kyle Young's money. But with Chris Holtman loving Kyle Young and the fans,
I'm telling you, Young's going to move to the 5 in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
How else are you going to do it?
I don't think you would take Kyle Young out of the starting lineup. We saw enough last year how much of an impact he had on that team when he was healthy and playing.
Can they go into the graduate the transfer portal and get another graduate transfer or no?
I mean, depends on who's
available. If Caleb's officially gone, they have – well, no, they're at 13, right? If Caleb leaves. They were 1 over before Caleb left, I thought.
Let me see who's left in the basketball.
If they're 1 over before Caleb left, or if Caleb put him at 13.
I'm telling you guys right now, you're sleeping on my guy Justice Suing, man.
He is not playing 5.
I hadn't talked about the 3 yet. I was going to mention him, Griffin. Excuse me.
I'm just saying it's just going to be a very positionless lineup. I feel like it's just going to be a lot of wings.
Yeah.
I feel that 2 through 4, you can do that. But the 5, you need someone to body down low in the Big Ten. And who else has that capability besides EJ and Kyle on this team? And they aren't true 5.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I definitely think Kyle Young was going to start for sure.
EJ struggled with that a lot last year.
We talked all the time about how
rebounds.
Yeah, we talked all the time about how EJ needed to be more physical down the post. He
And
started to do
doing
that
it at the end of the year, and he blossomed a little bit. But the year ended.
There's a couple of these centers that are pretty good prospects in the transfer portal right now.
And then with Kyle Young, I mean, he's a really good forward. He's just not a big man. He's not a 5. He's a scrappy player. He'll get rebounds
he's
and everything.
The biggest they got now, except
I know, but like being a 5 is not his natural position.
No, not at all. Not at all. But it's nobody's. That's the problem.
Yeah.
DJ Carton right now is the number 2 overall prospect in the transfer portal right now.
Wow.
It's not looking very pretty with that sitting 1 year next to his name.
Yeah.
Huh?
You said with what sitting next to his name?
Yes, sitting 1 year next to his name. Pretty much he's ineligible for the year.
Carton doesn't get immediate.
He doesn't get immediate eligibility. So he has to sit a year like Walker did, wherever he goes to. People are saying
wherever
like
he
Iowa.
goes, he'll be a junior when he plays again.
People are saying like Iowa might be where he goes.
I'm not going to listen. We've already talked about DJ Carton.
He should go to Iowa State if he's going to stay close to home. I just feel like it'd almost be like a slap in the face to some people if he went to Iowa because the playing price a year.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Both Iowa State and Iowa are very good basketball programs, so you could see him going to either.
The one thing
I mean, do what's best for you, but I feel like people might not.
It just rubs me the wrong way with this whole situation is like, you're just like, I don't know the actual reason, so I can't really blame the guy. But can we all agree DJ Carton is the type of talent where he is actual NBA talent, right? If you go off 1 year, you could just leave and go to the NBA. But now that you're transferring and you didn't really play more than just half of the year at Ohio State, the next time NBA scouts are going to see you on the court is your junior year. Like, your value only drops. Like, we've seen time and time again, guards in college basketball who go on to play 3-4 years and dominate or whatever, they don't really have that lottery, like, hype. You know what I'm saying? Like
John Morant?
Huh? John Morant? He's a sophomore. He played.
Was he a sophomore?
A sophomore.
Oh, I thought he was a junior.
No, and there's a lot of these guards who are only like one and dones, or maybe 2 and dones. But once you start going to them 3 and 4, you become Cassius Winston, where you're a late first round, second round pick. You know.
Yeah, but was Winston ever a lottery pick?
But DJ Carton's
talented
makes him stand out, though. I feel like with all the things going on with him, it would actually be probably very beneficial for his game to not be in like the spotlight or whatever for a year and come back then his junior year, I feel like he'll probably really break out, and he will have been able to improve a lot and still have that athleticism, and he could really do some things at that point.
Another thing you have to consider too is just the fact that we've known, based on what Cardin has admitted, is that he's been having a lot of mental health issues. That's why he stepped away from the team in the first place. So sitting for a year might be the best thing for him in order to kind of get things back on track. So
you wonder if it was something more than I don't know.
You can wonder and speculate all you want, but as someone who does deal with mental health issues every day, I understand that they are very real problems that you can't necessarily overlook.
Right.
So I have no idea how it is for DJ or what he specifically is dealing with.
Right, that's why you can't knock him, but just for his basketball future, it's a head scratcher.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, I just looked at it. If Kaleb does play the 5, Ohio State's tallest player is going to be 6'6".
6'6".
Is that how tall KY is?
Huh?
I thought KY was a little taller than that.
Like 6'6". That's literally Kobe Bryant, who played shooting guard.
I was a solid 6'8".
Nah, it says 6. I don't know. It says 6'6".
Oh, yeah. On what? On the roster, it hasn't been 6'8".
Well, the roster, of course, they're gonna push it on his recruiting profile.
You got to go off the roster, and he's definitely taller than EJ. Like seeing him on the court, EJ's 6'6". So
even then, 6'8" for a big man is still small.
He is not 6'8".
6'8" ain't all that big for a big.
That's what I'm saying. 6'8" is not big.
That's not a low threshold to keep. You're acting like, oh, he's not 6'8". We're not saying he's 7 foot here.
Nah, I'm just saying, like, he just from my memory of just when I think 6'8", I'm thinking like LeBron, and you're like looking up, like. But Kyle Young is like, he just looks like an average.
Right, because he's not built like LeBron.
Yeah, LeBron's just big. He's like a huge solid wall that happens to be 6'8" and is like a freakish athlete of a generation. Kyle Young's just super lanky and tall, but can play basketball pretty well.
But anyway, since we're on the topic of recruiting, do you guys want to segue on to football recruiting? Because I know football has some big news in their amazing and generational recruiting class this year. They got 5-star running back Travion Henderson. What are you guys' thoughts?
Dude is a monster. Have you watched his highlight film?
Yes, it's ridiculous.
What was it, like 2,500 yards last year he rushed for?
I've been waiting for that from a running back to commit to Ohio State. Just that type of – when you watch him on tape, you go, yep, that's the next one.
They got 2 of them. I think Evan Pryor is that way too. Watching his film, dude ran a 4.3.
I was about to say, did you guys know that? That's crazy.
Yeah. 4.3 as a sophomore in high school.
That's nuts.
If they can manage to keep both Henderson and Pryor,
I think they're definitely gonna stay because those two on Twitter seem to be like embracing the whole like 1-2 punch thing.
Like they're a lot of teams
a lot of teams are kind of moving to that anyway, especially in the NFL. Like a lot of teams are trying to use have two very good running backs so they can use to like punch at teams so that they can, keep at least one of their backs healthy and lighten the load necessarily.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know though. I don't always. The only problem is at Ohio State, like the 1-2 punch thing hasn't worked in a while.
I mean, it didn't really work with Weber and Dobbins.
It didn't really work with Weber and Dobbins. They were both worse when they were in that.
Right.
Yeah. Brought both backs down. It's supposed to.
I feel like it does. It only doesn't work when you have one true alpha. When you have guys like Dan Herron and Kurt. What's his name? Sane.
Yeah, Brandon Sane.
Yeah, Brandon Sane.
Was another not really.
Huh?
I liked Brandon Sane.
Neither of those dudes were that good, I feel like.
In college, they were really good.
Boom Herron was good, except it was easy to tackle him.
Yeah, but he's great.
Except he was bad.
Barely reached 1,000-yard season.
No,
Dude, 1,000 is still good.
I'm about to say maybe it didn't show up yards in a year. Not like this.
My standards are spoiled at this point, my friend.
Right. You've had Dobbins and Zeke and
coming off of a 2,000-yard season, I can understand why you're looking at 1,000 and is like, ew.
Yeah, that's a fact.
But no, I feel like in this system, Who knows? You never know. Evan Pryor could turn out to play what Curtis Samuels kind of did. If
he could transition to kind of an H-back, stat role, come in and
if he has that 4.3 40-yard speed, he absolutely could transition to that.
You can do a lot.
Then again, I mean, that's the kind of prospect that hasn't panned out, all the Dontre Wilson and Mario McCall in recent years too.
But I feel like
for
example,
H-back.
Curtis Samuel, right? Curtis
Evans
Samuel
a better runner.
Type of player where once you got the ball in his hands, no matter where it was, he made something happen, right?
Right.
And that was a key for him, right? But then you look at guys like Dontre Wilson, whatever his name is. Those guys, they struggled getting the ball in their hands, And once they got the ball in their hands, they were. I don't know.
I think mainly it was a size issue because if you look at DeMario and Dontre, they were both really skinny guys who never really put on weight while they were at Ohio State. And I know DeMario still has another year, but
Curtis Samuel could break tackles. That was the thing.
Curtis Samuel he had some size to him.
Yeah.
He had that speed and elusiveness, and he was a good route runner. So, those are all qualities that you hope Evan Pryor could develop if he transitions to that role. He has a bigger frame, certainly, to put weight on. He's not at the kind of weight that Ohio State expects from his running backs yet. What is he? I think he's 190 right now.
True, but he's coming in as a freshman, so Mickey
Mariotta's
going to get on that immediately.
He has available size to add onto his frame, unlike Dontre and DeMario, because DeMario was never going to get that big. He doesn't have the frame.
And I have a question for you guys. So with this recruiting class, Kaleb McCord jumped up to a 5-star. What are you? I don't think we've ever really talked about him. What do you guys think of Kaleb McCord as the next future quarterback of Ohio State?
It's going to be an interesting battle when he gets in here and there's C.J. Stroud and Jack Miller.
It's going to be a crowded QB room unless the transfer happens.
Kaleb McCord's highlight tapes, right? And
one of those
I don't see the it right away. Like when you look at like C.J. Stroud or even Jack Miller's highlight tape, you go, oh, these guys have a lot of talent. I mean, obviously Jack Miller with his injuries, but you can see the pop. But for Kyle, I can't tell if it's like, oh, he's just surrounded by supreme athletes or if the talent he's playing against is not that good. Because it just looks kind of like effortless. It doesn't look like he's really trying to make anything happen. But I don't know. So I don't know.
What was his stats last year? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, honestly.
Because going off of that, making it look effortless can be a good thing.
It could be a good thing, but I just don't know. I can't tell.
But is it a good thing? Because we don't know the caliber. I haven't put enough research in to know the talent around him and the talent he's playing.
That's a project for next week.
He plays in Pennsylvania, so I can't imagine it's all that great, his talent.
Whoa, Griffin, a new background.
Playing against. Not like he's in.
I'm about to pull it up for you right now.
He completed 66% of his passes for 2,883 yards last year. He doesn't have touchdowns or picks.
He doesn't have what?
He doesn't have touchdowns or picks on here, but he completed 2/3 of his passes, which is pretty good for over 2,800 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how he could sell
high
us.
School stats.
We
talked about high school receivers and high school offensive lines protecting you.
One position where there are no question marks is the guy he's throwing to, Marvin Harrison Jr. That guy is a stud.
They play together?
No prior. You don't have a certain special bias on that, do you?
They play together,
Mr. Super Colts fan.
Well, listen, Reggie Wayne was his guy.
Yeah, as y'all can tell right there. What's it called? Yeah, they do play together right now at St. Joseph's Prep.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so coming in with that.
Both very highly recruited players. So once Kyle came on, Marvin came on shortly after, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting seeing how, the 2021 class comes in with an already really good 2020 class coming in now.
There's something about Ohio State.
You got Ballard, too.
Yeah, there's something about Ohio State recruiting classes, though, where it's I always think about that 2017 class, right? And I just think back to when that 2017 class came in, I didn't think much of these players. But looking back, you go, dang, this guy's a stud. This guy balled out. This guy balled out. So now I'm looking through this class, and I'm like, all right, 3 years from now, which one of you are going to be like top first round picks in the draft? Jack
I
Sawyer.
mean, Jack Sawyer stands out to me.
Big on Henderson could be that next JK. I think that Jalen
I
Johnson
hate my
be that next
Wi-Fi.
career kind of player. So I don't know. There's a lot of these guys, honestly.
And he's having Wi-Fi issues. Struggle with having to use Zoom. But
I swear I was about to say something, but I got distracted by whatever was going on with Andy.
No, that receiving room is gonna be super stacked up very quickly after next year because you're gonna have depending on if Chris Olave decides to come back or whatnot, but you're gonna have Garrett Wilson, what's it called, Julian Fleming,
G. Scott Jr.
Big Buck, G. Scott, Mookie Cooper, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jaden Ballard. That's a lot of guys.
I mean, we were talking about we were really planning on talking about like some of the positives of Ohio State because last week we were looking into the running back situation and how that was like going to be a weakness for Ohio State this year, even with the transfer from Oklahoma. But the wide receiver room is going to be probably the biggest strength for this offense, I'd say. That or the offensive line, but even I think the wide receiver group just has more depth.
Yeah,
So,
and what's crazy is that's not a bad thing in college football of having too many good receivers because receiver is a position where any guy can go off at any time, right? And let's be honest, in the NFL draft, they don't really care about production from receivers. They care about traits. Like, for example, if you look at Henry Ruggs, like he has supreme speed, and now he's kind of being projected to go higher than CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy, which is crazy to even think about. So
Lamb and Jeudy are like ridiculous receivers.
And Alabama has shown that this can work. They had Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, and they have another guy after that as well. And they are all projected high first round picks. So who knows? This receiving room in about a year could be ridiculously loaded.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even mentioning a couple like receivers too that were on the team this year, didn't play that much. Someone like Jameson Williams stands out to me as someone who can really make an impact like this coming year.
That speed, man.
That speed.
I'm excited to see Jameson. I'm excited to see Garrett. I think Garrett Wilson's going to be – it's going to be close between Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, who's actually the best receiver on this team.
Yeah. I think that would be my hot take where I said Garrett Wilson is going to
Wilson. I can see it. I don't disagree with it, but I think Olave has a certain connection with Fields, though, that pushes him over the top.
But something tells me that connection has been kind of growing with Garrett Wilson. I've been
that's
seeing
true
him a
too.
lot.
Garrett, he balled out in the Michigan game.
And if you look on their offseason videos, they're always together throwing. And I'm like, I don't know, Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields got something brewing.
The other thing I'll say is that they'll use Garrett more. We saw them kind of work some screen game with him, right? Bubble, tunnel, some of the stuff they used to do with KJ a lot. Because Garrett's that after the catch, like big play threat. And Chris has some of that too because he's really fast.
Yeah.
Not to the extent where Garrett's going to make people miss.
Yeah. And Garrett can break tackles too.
He's both that. He's a really great deep threat.
You guys want to know what I think is going to separate Garrett Wilson from Chris Olave? I feel like Garrett Wilson moving over to the slot position opens up more crossing routes and things like that. Like he's going to be able to get in front of Justin Fields' vision a lot more, getting more receptions. Kind of like he's going to kind of play the Paris Campbell role of 2 years ago, where just get the ball in his hands and let him take off kind of game. I don't know if he has Paris Campbell's speed, but I feel like him moving over to the slot.
He's pretty dang close if he's not there in Paris Campbell's speed. He's a fast dude. And I think the other things to look at for Garrett that are important, we talked about frame at running back. He wasn't that big last year, but his frame is wide, and that'll allow him to add size at the receiver position, hopefully still stay fast. Mm-hmm. Make him even better after the catch and a better blocker too, which I know a lot of people talk about a whole lot, but that's important for the offense. So he has that frame, and I think again, the ability after the catch is what separates him, I think.
Can we all
Why the move to the slot could be so beneficial.
can we all agree he has the best hands on the team by far?
I mean,
Yes.
I'm honestly with you there. Yeah, I think he does.
I don't know if I'd go by far, but
I don't think who's the
hands
close
on the
second?
team.
Olave?
I mean,
Olave
I,
has
I
great
think
hands,
Olave
too.
has great hands. Yeah.
I think he has good hands, but I think when I think of
Did you
great,
see that catch he made
Yeah,
against
yeah.
who was
I'm
that? Where he
thinking-
went over the dude?
yeah, I'm
Oh,
thinking
that
great
mission-
hands as in like no matter where you throw the ball, it could be like behind the back, like anything. Garrett Wilson will make the catch. Kind of like how I vision Mike Thomas right now with the Saints. You throw the ball anywhere in his direction, he's coming down with it. That's how I vision Garrett Wilson. I'm not saying Chris Olave is not a good pass catcher. I'm thinking he's still good.
I don't know. I agree he has the best hands on the team. I just wouldn't say by far because of great hands.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about this guy much at all, but I don't know why. I really like this recruit, and it's Reed Carrico, the inside linebacker for this class. I just see the next great linebacker from Ohio State in him.
I do too. I think he's a mid-tier. He's a higher 4-star, and he's an Ohio product, which is always good. I think he's got one thing that I think you look at Tuff Borland, right? Tuff's had a solid career, but I don't think anyone's going to say he's like among the great Ohio State linebackers or anything like that at all.
I wouldn't
He
say
might
that.
have been if he played a decade ago. I think he lacked some of the athleticism that you need in today's spread age. Big.
I mean, just from
variety.
the same linebacker group, I'd say Malik Harrison's a better linebacker historically for Ohio State than Tuff Borland has been.
I think Carrico has some of that athleticism you need now, as well as the intangibles and the toughness that made Ohio State linebackers great in the past. Your Laurinaitis, your Hawks, going further back, your Spielmans, your Gradishars, your Cousinos, your Merricks, all these names.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
I mean,
even
linebacker, right?
Not even that. Going back to just like 5 or 6 years ago, Raekwon McMillan, Jerome Baker, like some of those guys who just had that pop, who could just make those plays. I feel like the past couple of years, that's something that Ohio State has lacked a little bit. Yeah. Shazier, yeah, absolutely. So
and take this in though, if things are projected as they're projected right now, and Barrett Carter, who's the number 54 overall prospect in this class, who's an outside linebacker, if he commits, that's gonna load up pretty much the linebacker spot. And then there's this guy on this recruit who's the number 43rd player in the country. His name is like Chinmais Adelele or whatever, right? And he's been on Twitter hinting at Ohio State every chance he gets. Like I promise you, it's like every 2 days he's trending on my like Twitter feed because all these Ohio State beat reporters are like quotating that he's like teasing Ohio State, and he's a defensive end. So you pair him with Jack Sawyer, this defense could be loaded up very, very quickly with those two recruits.
Now, I think what's funny, think about a year ago, this time, Ohio State had, I think it was around June, they had like 8 offensive and only 1 defensive commit in the class. And we were all speculating, okay, Ryan Day's this great offensive mind. How is he going to recruit defense? What is
Chase Young effect?
And then all of a sudden now he started getting some defensive commitments in that 2020 class. It rolled in, and then it transitioned right into 2021, and we're seeing a ridiculous defensive class here.
Yeah, not even just
weapons too with Travion and Evan Pryor. I mean, they already have Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyle McCord, Donovan Jackson, even January. Another talk about a top 40 overall prospect at guard. Looking through, they have a top 100 commit at every position group tight end. Let's say, well, I guess like if you lump defensive backs together, at every level of offense and defense, they have a top 100 prospect at O-line, quarterback, running back, receiver, D-line. They have 2 linebacker and defensive back. They have a top 100 prospect at all those position groups.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they develop And not even just like the Chase Young effect on like some of the defensive commits he's got. I think you have to just look at the production of the defensive line as a whole. Like Devon Hamilton balled out this past year, and I think that's really helped. Looking at some of the defensive tackles that Ohio State's been getting both this year and in possibly the upcoming class. So, but
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you look at the recruiting class as of right now. In the Big Ten alone, Ohio State has over 100 more points than second placed Wisconsin right now. Ohio State has 3 5-stars, 10 4-stars, and 2 3-stars. Wisconsin they have 0 5-stars, only 3 4-stars, and 6 3-stars. That's just like ridiculous. And then when you look at the actual total rankings, Ohio State right now is 60 points ahead of second place Clemson right now, which is ridiculous. And they have 3 5-stars compared to Clemson's 1. So this class is already right now in a different gear.
Yeah.
And it's scary to know that Ohio State right now is getting these recruits without having some of these recruits even visit Ohio State. Trayvon Henderson hasn't even been to Ohio State yet, and he's already committed.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, the coronavirus has made for a very interesting situation.
Coronavirus?
Yeah, it's made for a very interesting situation. And I think Ohio State's done a phenomenal job of just adapting to the changing circumstances it's brought.
Man, that man Ryan Day is becoming.
He's got this program set for the future, baby.
Set. And I love what he did on his Twitter with that once Trayvon Henderson committed, and he put that video with Gunna's hot song in the background, and he was like dancing. Oh my god! I was like, he's a recruiting genius right now. Him and the marketing team are just they're a great mix right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Khalid. I'm gonna have a U-style hot take here.
Go ahead.
Ryan Day taking over when he did was better for the future of the program than if Meyer had stayed.
Oh no, I agree with that 1,000%.
I don't think that's a hot take at all.
Yeah, I agree. You got to get hotter than that, Andy.
Yeah, okay. Then the Zach Smith scandal benefited Ohio State football. How about that?
Huh?
And the Zach Smith scandal benefited Ohio State football. How about that?
I mean, look at who the wide receiver coach is now. Brian Hartline's done so much for the program in the short time he's been here.
Listen, I was the one who was saying, listen, get Brian Hartline in that chair ASAP.
I was too, man. I never liked Zach Smith as
I never liked that guy.
He never developed anybody. Yeah. People say Michael Thomas, but that was just his uncle.
He didn't even utilize Mike Thomas. Do you know what Brian Hartline would do with Mike Thomas' talent on this team?
God, that makes me mad. Thinking back to that 2015 team, with all the talent they had. If you had Brian Hartline there, if you didn't have Ed Warner and Tim Beck running that offense, just think of what could
I don't blame 2015 on Zach per se, but he never developed him.
Well, true, but not even 2015. Just look at 2016 and 2017 with all the talent those teams had. And then it's you make it to the playoffs and you get curb stomped by Clemson 31.
McLaurin didn't develop until Zach Smith was gone.
Andy, you want a real hot take? You want a real hot take? Within the next 6 years, I believe Ryan Day will have more championships and will have a better Ohio State legacy than Urban Meyer.
So you think he'll win 2 in the next 6? Yeah. I agree with that.
You think he's going to win 2 championships in the next 6 years?
Yes.
I can see it.
I think so.
I think it's going to happen.
I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'll give him 1.
I think they're going to win this year.
Listen. I say this. I say right now, this year's Ohio State team is the favorite to win the championship over Clemson. And
Are they that?
I think so, right? And then when you look at the 2023 year, I feel that's so far to look ahead to. But
it is, but when this 2021 class is juniors, he's saying.
Yeah, I think they're going to be disgusting.
Okay.
I don't disagree.
Clemson's has put together some super classes recently too, though.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that's the new power struggle in power football. I think Alabama's on the decline.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see if they stay on the decline. But
yeah, it's going to be really interesting.
Right now, the power struggle in college football is between Ohio State and Clemson.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all we have time for today. So thank you very much for sticking with us for another episode of the Best Damn Pod in the Land. Hope all you viewers are staying safe and staying home, staying healthy. And we'll be back next week for more analysis of the upcoming Ohio State football team and any other sporting news that happens to drop. Have a great week and stay safe.